Hello again. Welcome to European Autocraft Studios. 944 Turbo restoration project. We are going to start on the transmission. I didn't want to do this just yet, but the wiring I think you probably had enough of. It's time to get a little greasy and dirty into this transmission. Transmission seems to shift fine, as I remember from a long time ago with this car. But let's take a look inside, and even though if it doesn't need anything, which I'm sure we'll find something, we're still going to break down all of the shafts. We'll look at the bearings and explain what we see and what we're going through. We're going to need a press. There's a couple tools I don't have that I'll get by the time we get to doing the press work. You also get to see the other part of the shop here. It's kind of a mess. Every day we're trying to do a little more to make it better. Lots of good plans for the future. We need your help, so subscribe and keep watching these videos. You're doing great. I appreciate it. So we haven't opened the transmission yet. The fluid is still in it. I'm not sure what's going to come out. Hopefully just oil. Maybe we'll get to see some chunks or something. That'd be kind of fun. I already loosened it, but I haven't opened it yet. So let's take a look. The first spill here. Let's see what we get. I don't want it on my fingers. Oh, that's, yeah, we'll get a little more airflow. There we go. Well, that doesn't look too bad. I was thinking we might get some chunks or something, but yeah, I don't think we're going to find any carnage inside, but we'll get a good tour of the transmission and all the bearings and synchros and sliding collars and detents, how the reverse gear works. That's kind of fun. And fun is good. Well, I might just put this in my car. No, I won't. Let's move our turbocharger here. And just hopefully that'll stay. Yeah, we'll give it a little more. I know you're all hoping it slides off the transmission, off the table, but it won't. I know what you're thinking. One of my missions here was to have a teardown bench. I don't have one yet, mainly because we don't have a place to put it. So I'm using these amazing stainless steel benches to do all my disassembly work and engine work. I was going to put this on a engine stand, but I don't have the right adapter, and the transmission would just be too low. So this is a good height to work. Let's get rid of this oil so I don't take a bath in it. All right, we'll forget about that one for a couple weeks. So the mission today, we're going to take the gear case off the bell housing assembly, the housing here. That means we have to take the shifter assembly out. I want to take the cooler off just so it's already banged up quite a bit. There's a lot of fins that have bent over. We're going to spend some time on this to make it look nice again and clean that up. But we'll do that another time. But I definitely want to make it look a little better than it does. Kind of beat up. So we're going to get that apart. We'll get the cooler apart. We'll get the stub axles out and the cover and remove the differential. Differential won't come out until the gear case is out because the pinion overlaps the ring gear, and the ring gear is facing outward from the back. So it won't come out until that comes out. I'm going to get the heat shield out of the way so we can get a punch. We have to drive these, I think I can see, we have to drive these dowel pins out because they're really locked tight into the gear case here. So those have to be driven out. At least 90% of the way is good. And what else? Yeah, we'll take that out, and this whole assembly after the bolts out should slide right out. Should. I've done a lot of these. I haven't done one of these in a long time now. I used to work for a guy that did race 944s, and we were doing third gear synchros constantly. So I'm pretty well versed at this transmission. It's just been a long time. So without any further ado, let's start by, I guess we'll take the shifter off first. All right. So that's simple. Now remember, the 944 normally has a lock wire around this to prevent this bolt from backing out. If you don't have lock wire or the pliers, a little drop of blue Loctite works. There's normally a hole in the head. There is no hole. So this never had lock wire. Okay. Easy enough. This is kind of an interesting little setup here. Come on. Using the rubber as a flex joint. It's pretty neat. There's also a plastic bushing and a ball in there, so the rubber keeps it nice and clean. Still, vintage Porsche, the rubber's actually still good. So we'll clean those up. Replace what's needed. Okay, so now the selector rod is just going to come around this way and take out cover plate. That's not tight. Those bolts weren't even tight. Interesting. Okay. So there's the cover. It's got a little guide, so it sits right inside the nylon. We might be in a gear here. Let's see. We might be in gear, so I'm going to just put this on and get it into neutral. Okay, now it's in neutral. Now, if you don't know how these shifters work, it's actually pretty neat. This detent I should have taken out as well, but this spring-loaded assembly, this is what allows you to move the selector in and out. If you look inside there, you can see the slots that shifter goes into. Those rods are 3 rods stacked up, and when you move the shifter, you can move one rod, and then when you move the shifter to another section, to 3/4 section, it just moves over. And I should have taken that detent out. Let's see if I don't want it. Just get that out of the way. Well, we'll get that later. It's down inside the transmission. Now, it definitely would have been beneficial to take that out first, take pressure off of the rod there, and you won't lose it inside the transmission. So, that comes out before you remove the shifter. Note to self. What's next here? Let's get this cooler out of the way. Pretty simple design. It's got a gear-driven pump off of a wheel inside here. If I remember correctly, it's an aluminum ring that drives the sprocket on this. Well, we'll know for sure when we get it apart. That's just should come off with just a 13. Now there's going to be oil leaking everywhere, so let's see how we do here. In fact, it's probably going to be leaking the entire time we take this transmission apart. Alright, so that's not only the cooler mount, it's got a little bit of a key here. And that just goes in and locks the ring in. There isn't one in the back here, or is there? No, because this being pulled forward and locked in place holds the back in. I seem to remember there being a ring there, but I guess not. Pretty simple. That'll get all cleaned up and drained. Oh boy. Yeah, we're going to have a mess on our hands here. clean bench. Alright, that's okay. We're going to make more of a mess than that. So the pump is going to stay in place for now while we disassemble the back of it. Let's see, these are just 6mm Allen. Now the original color scheme on this transmission is bare aluminum, black, bare aluminum, and this heat shield is also black. They will be going back to original colors when we're done. Oh, nice and shiny. Alright. Another set of detents in here. I'm going to leave those till we start disassembling the back section. We'll have to knock out this plug. There's a bolt here that holds the rear bearing in. We'll just gently warm up that bearing race, and then this will separate from the gear case. But we're not going to do that this trip. We'll do that next time. Let's see how far we have to go here, how far we get. Okay, dowel pins. I didn't have a punch the correct diameter anymore, so I have a nice tool here that will do the trick. I generally replace these dowel pins. The diameter might be a little too big. Yeah. The diameter is a little too big for that, so I'm going to go fix that right now, so I'll be right back. Alright, what do we got here? Are we getting close? Yeah. Okay, that's one. Now, if I had a lathe, I would have made that tool so it fits perfect with the pin in the middle and everything. This is going to be a little tricky. Now, that's not good. This one has been expanded outward, so my tool is going down inside of it. Yeah, this can happen. Let's see what we can do to maybe fold it over. I just want to get the pin to close up so I can get a bite on it with the punch. We'll deal with these little issues later. We'll get the new dowel pins and they'll be fine. Let's just... Found a lot of little challenging parts of this car. I guess it's better than just doing this off camera and say, voila, it's done. Although I really like the Florida heat, sometimes it does feel like we're on the surface of the sun, like today. Very hot. Air conditioning system should be running by tonight, I think, if all goes well. We have a big system we're putting in and a little system that'll sort of help the backup a little bit. So hopefully that'll be working today. Then we got to get the duct work done. Boy, this dowel pin is a mess. Now still catching the edges. Well, I could drill it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to drill it with the case in the way here. It might be back far enough where we can maybe warm it up and get the case off of there. It's It's in there a little bit. Well, we'll try that. We'll see if we can get it off. Because once we get it separated, the dowel pin will be hanging out there, and then we can shrink the end of it and drive it through, or maybe find a way to come back this way with a bolt that'll catch it and tighten it through a socket, and that'll pull it out this way. That'd be fun to watch. I've actually done that before with other things. It works pretty well. So let's move on. Let's see if we can get that off with that dowel pin still in there a little bit. All right, so 13. All of these are just 13 millimeter headed 8 millimeter bolts. Let's do it this way. I think I know where we're going with this one. I'm not impressed with your work ethic. I knew he was going to do that. All right, let's try this again. The extension doesn't help, but power does. Much better. All right, there we go. All the bolts are out, I think. I'm going to use, just going to use aluminum dowel. And let's see if I can jar this loose. I think that's all coming out of our bolt holes. Nice. Don't want to get too aggressive with it, because if you start breaking off parts, that's not good. I could stick a screwdriver down in there, but I don't want to damage the flange. It is still stuck on the dowel pins a little bit. I'll have a better tool for that next time. I'm sure of that. That dowel pin's holding on pretty well. So. Just wasn't prepared as much as I wanted to be for this. Yeah, we still got a little bit in there too. I didn't grind that down far enough, would have had more. Although that should have got it. Either way, alright. Let's try gently prying that. Okay, that's moving. There's a lot of that dowel still in there. Oh look, it's actually coming out of the case, not the cast iron piece. So the little bit that's left is holding on tight enough so where it's coming out of the aluminum. Surprise, surprise. This one's okay. The top one is not. We'll do it right next time. There we go. And there we go. There's the pinion shaft shim. This is what sets the pinion depth, which is predetermined by the ring and pinion match set. I don't remember this making any noise. Oh, the whole race came out. Okay. So I'm going to assume that the depth is good. If the depth isn't right on, you get a whining or a whirring sound. Here's our detent spring. I'm sure the detent is hiding in here somewhere. We'll get to that. Let's take a look at the gear sets. Nice and clean. Everything looks good in here. Yeah, it looks good so far. This is our reverse. This will come out, take the plate off, and that'll drop down so we can get the shafts out in the next video. But right now we're going to continue on and just take off the cover and the pump. Like a horror movie, the body just laying in there, and the blood everywhere. Yuck. The nice thing about the teardown benches is they drain. This one does not. So it'll drain all over my feet. That's another problem. Stub axles. I should have a pile for parts and a pile for tools, but that would be too easy and too neat. Gotta get messy. It's my MO. These shafts are the same left and right, so there's no worry about a mix-up. Now we need another one. Now I don't remember if I can take the pump off the cover first, or if I even have to. I don't think I have to. So, but I want to see what's inside. So let's take it off. I think we should take it off. See, now I can't find all my sockets. Those are all the same length. This looks like it also has little locating pins. No place to grab it. All right, well, I'll wait till we get the rest of it off. Different. I like these little tabs they give you to pry on, but they don't give you anything on this. Maybe just a couple of gentle tabs. All right. Well, there's our screen. This little strainer prevents any chunks or debris from getting into the little pump, which I want to get apart. There it is. Little ball must be a little check valve. And there's our little gear driven pump. It looks like an oil pump that you would find in your car. Well, this is a car, and this is oil. So forget I said that. It is an oil pump. So we'll inspect that a little closer. There's the filter. I guess that's something we can inspect from time to time during a service. Snap ring on the gear, so that'll probably go out that way. And this one is in there pretty good. I think it's just suction from the gear oil holding that shaft in. Yeah, there it is. What a nice design. Ooh, don't drop it. All right. So there's our pump. Our oil pump. The oil pump. Pump. With the pinion shaft out of the way, we can now remove the ring gear. Like that. Nice wear pattern, if you can see it. Right in the middle. How the power, it just tapers off by the ends. It's using most of the tooth. So this is actually a very good wear pattern. We'll take a closer look later on, make sure there's no chips and or pitting, but from what I see so far, it looks great. Here is our speedometer drive. It's got a couple, this is pretty simple as well. Just got a couple of teeth that locks into, and that drives our electronic sensor here, which we have not removed. Again, that probably should have come out first because it can be damaged. We didn't jostle that around so much, you know, where it could have hurt the gear, so it's something you probably should take out first. So we learned a few things here. One, the selector lever detent should come out first before you remove this whole shifter assembly. The dowel pins right here should be driven all the way through and have the right tool. I did not. So we improvised, but we're going to replace the dowel pins anyways. But as far as efficiency goes, getting the right tools to make this work is ahead of time is so much better. Things move a little bit better. We have our backup light switch. Doesn't really have to come out. Didn't have to come out right away. This you'll see the bevel on the end of the gear, under the shaft. This is one of the shafts that, well, I got the time. We'll show you. This is what goes in and grabs and rotates. And when it rotates, it just pushes these levers up and down, which moves the forks, they're called shifter forks, onto the slider. This is the synchro slider hub, they call it. The brass is the synchro. These are the dog teeth, and that's the actual gear. If the dog teeth were chewed off and could no longer mesh with the synchro, you would have to change the gear and the other opposite gear. So third gear, if this is third gear, you'd replace this gear and this gear. I don't know what gear that I got to look at it, but I think it might be fourth gear. It's probably fourth gear. But this gear comes off. Some gears don't come off the pinion shaft or the lay shaft. This is called this isn't a lay shaft. This doesn't have a lay shaft. It has an input shaft and an output shaft. But in this case, a lot of times on the 911s, you can replace the dog teeth. I don't know of anybody doing that on the 944s. I believe that these are cast with the gear, but I'm going to look a little closer. I just don't remember. But we're going to take a close look at all these points and make sure the points are nice and sharp. You'll see that in the next video. And we'll get this case apart. Hopefully we do it right in the right sequence. So keep in mind that a few mistakes that we made along the way, we still were able to get it apart without damaging anything. That's the key. Not everybody has all these special tools, and I should have them, but I don't. So I will make sure I have them for next time. Again, we're going to be looking at bearing surfaces. Now this, if you look at this here, I just noticed, this is where the race sits. And if you notice how, let me grab the race here, excuse me. This really should not have come out of the case. I've seen this before with other transmissions, even 944 transmissions. So what looks like happened is they were hit with a punch to displace the metal. So when you punch a hole in the aluminum, the aluminum has to go somewhere, so it comes back up in a circle. If you do that enough times, there's another one over here, I can feel it. So that's probably what happened with this one, is this was sliding in and out so much. You don't want this to rotate in the housing. If this rotates in the housing, you're going to destroy it, and you won't have much life out of the transmission at all. It'll destroy this, and the pinion will start wobbling around. So it's important that this race is a nice tight fit inside this housing. So I think that's what they did. That's why it feels a little rough. It still came out easy, but it probably wouldn't turn. I'm going to look into a better repair for that, if there's something available that we can use. Maybe some green Loctite stud and bearing mount that might lock that into place. We may have to rough up the surface a little bit so it bites, but we'll figure that out later. So I think that's it for now. We're going to get this case in our wet jet blaster one day when it's up and running. It's not quite there yet. I keep saying that, but it's coming. And we'll clean all this stuff up. I think I'm just going to replate the hardware. The bolts in the back, I'm not sure if they were black or yellow cad, but we'll find out. And get all this stuff plated up nice and painted and back together with all new parts over the course of however long it takes. But for now, thanks for watching us get this apart, and we'll see you next week. Like, subscribe, and share it, because we need it. Bye.